Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. Of course, I'm sitting in the dark, chilling. I'm actually trying to get more familiar with the draft prospects that are out there right now. Just doing my homework on the draft that'll be coming up in about 2.5 days. Very, very close. So I'm not here to really tell you what I've learned here. Not necessarily. I'm more so here to talk about a rumor that I heard involving the number one pick that I just felt was so intriguing to me. Now it could be false. So if it's false, ignore it. But I heard it from a decent source, so I'm just running along the lines as if this could possibly be true. So I hear that the number one pick is coveted by the Oklahoma City Thunder, and as we know, the Oklahoma City Thunder have, they're basically the vault for picks. I'd say about a year ago, I came on here and told you guys that the Oklahoma City Thunder are now the new vault for picks, like the Boston Celtics used to be, or still are to a certain extent, but the OKC Thunder have taken that to the next level, and they're hoarding picks like crazy. They got 1 million picks from here to 7 years from now. And this is one of the years where they look like they're trying to move those picks around, maybe try to see what they can do to move up in the draft, things like that. And what I heard that the Oklahoma City Thunder did, Sam Presti, was offer Shai GilgeousAlexander, and I believe it was the number 7th pick in this draft, for the number 1 pick, which is likely Cunningham. Doing the homework on Cunningham was somewhat important in this conversation, assuming he would be the number 1 pick. But it really means it's less to do about him and more so to do about just the value of the pick itself. I like the pick this year because what you have is a 3-headed monster in this year's draft, something that you don't get very often. But either one of these 1, 2, and 3 players could be the number 1 pick in the draft most years. We just got a very special talent in Cade Cunningham that kind of makes it so that other guys just have to fall behind him in on paper. But we're looking at potentially three big time players coming in, 1, 2, and 3. So I definitely see the fruit in moving up in this draft. And if you're OKC, you want to get into that top 3 because you have all these assets. You want to win. You want to win. You want to put yourself in a position to turn them into the best possible talent. I do not at all understand adding Shai GilgeousAlexander to any deal involving the first pick in the draft and nothing else coming back your way. In theory, that sounds like something that would be done if you don't want to pay Shai. I thought he had already been paid, but I think the only logic to that is you feel like you're going to lose him, and you would rather not go down that path, so you'd rather couple him together now, try to pick up what you may think of as a generational talent in Cade Cunningham, somebody who can spearhead your offense and build around him, and it's not a whole lot Cade can't do, so it's very easy to build around a guard like that. He can set your offense up, he can shoot, he can do all kinds of different stuff. So if they're looking at Cade Cunningham, or there might be other guys, maybe they want Mobley, maybe they want a 7-footer, that kind of thing. I haven't done my homework on him yet, but I've heard what he can do. Sounds like he's a big-time big coming into this league. You know how valuable those are. So whatever they're trying to do with that number 1 pick, there is no way in hell, no way on God's green earth that I'm adding Shai GilgeousAlexander to any trade of any kind. That's the first thing I'm going to tell you guys. I wouldn't trade him for nobody. You would have to be talking about Zion Williamson, Luka Doncic. Those are the names that I would entertain if you want to start talking about Shai. Now, that's just me. That's how much I value the kid. That's how much I see his production coming along on both sides of the floor. I see his jump shot stepping into. What I saw from the homework I've done on Cade Cunningham only showed me Cade's strength, so I still have a lot of homework to do. But like I said, he's the number 1 consensus overall pick unless something crazy happens. What I saw from him, look, amazing. But he's a rook. He's a rook. He has to come into his own. And when you have rookies that are very, very talented, we've seen this before. Guys like Michael Beasley. I watched footage on Michael Beasley during the draft. During this process, just like I'm doing right now. I was just as excited about Michael Beasley as I am about Cade Cunningham right now. They don't have the same strengths and weaknesses, but I'm saying the enthusiasm that I have for Cade today and would want him to bring him to my team is the same enthusiasm I have about Michael Beasley when I was watching his highlights. That's all I'm saying. Would I have traded Michael Beasley or Michael Beasley before he's being drafted? Let's say he's the second pick in the draft that year, which he was. Am I trading, a player of caliber of Shai GilgeousAlexander and a pick for him on draft night? If I'm thinking along these lines, yes, I am. And would that have been a good decision? Hell no, that would have been a horrible decision. It would have been one of the worst decisions I ever did. You do not establish. You don't take an established young player under the age of 23 years of age, turn himself into an all-star caliber player on both sides of the floor. You don't couple him with a pick, a high pick, to get the number one pick. You don't do that. That is a bad decision in most cases. Hell, all cases if you ask me. Because at the end of the day, rookies have to come into their own. And a guy like Shai is essentially just come out of that phase. You watched him develop for 4 years. He's the player he's going to become. Now it's time to pay him. You're OKC. You don't have anything else but picks and basically him. You don't trade him. You trade all that other stuff. Now, again, if you're just in love with Cunningham, which after watching highlights, I feel you. There's nothing that makes me say otherwise. You want to get him, and then you're going to take what you have to go get the player that you love. And if this is that case, I don't know how else you get Cade Cunningham. You feel me? That's what it comes down to. If I'm to covet him to that degree, regardless of what Brandon thinks of him, regardless of what I think, if I covet him to that degree and I have the assets to go get him, then this is a way to try to accomplish that. But the Detroit Pistons didn't go for it, which is even more egregious. This brings me to my next statement. This is even more egregious. I respect the Detroit Pistons. They haven't had the number one pick in a long time, if ever, right? I mean, they haven't had the number one pick since before Isaiah Thomas was drafted. So I understand what this means to their fan base, and I understand that when you haven't had something for this long and you don't know how long it's going to be before you get it again, you don't want to take the chance of not getting the best player in that draft, because every year you watch teams take the best player in the draft and you wish to God you had that opportunity. So when you finally get that opportunity, just like anything else, you're like, I'm never going to give that opportunity up. But you got to understand what that value actually is. If somebody's going to offer you an all-star caliber player who, as I said, has just exited his development stage, he's still young, he plays both sides of the floor. Even if you don't love Shai, it's almost your responsibility to take back that much value. It's sort of like, and ironic enough, this is involving the same two teams in the same exact situation, but it was just a more reasonable deal if you ask me. It's the same as if you're saying, I'm going to offer you, I'm OKC and I'm offering you 5 picks for the number one pick. Well, responsibly speaking, you should probably take that deal, because even though the number one pick is some transcendent talent, you could take those 5 picks and turn into an all-star player. You can take those 5 picks and turn it into several picks that you may be able to turn into other picks that you may be able to actually turn into the number one pick a year from now and have other picks attached to that. So there's a lot of things you can do if you're creative and you're smart. And that's why you don't overvalue the number one pick, especially when you haven't decided on the player that you want. The Detroit Pistons have come out and said that they're not certain if they want Cade Cunningham, Mobley, or Green. Now, I think they're ultimately going to go with Cade Cunningham, I believe that. But if someone's going to offer you 4 times the value, that's an offer you can't refuse. You're responsible as your GM to bring back that value to your team. And Cade Cunningham, maybe he turns out to be Michael Jordan. And if that's the case, hey, we run away with, we don't talk about this no more. But I just feel like the Detroit Pistons, we're going to always remember, especially if they don't do the right thing with this pick, we're going to always remember that they had an opportunity to grab a surefire all-star caliber youngster and some 7th pick. A 7th pick that they could have turned into something else too. Maybe even turn into multiple picks. And they decided to not do that so that they could keep the number one pick and draft whoever they're going to draft or trade it for whatever they're going to trade it for. I just feel like this is one of those opportunities where if this rumor is true, both sides made both sides were trying their very best to do the wrong thing. It seemed like that's what it felt like to me. I trust Sam Presti a little more than I trust the Detroit Pistons. I don't know what the Pistons have going on in their front office. I'm not certain. I think they've just revamped everything, so it's probably a new front office. But you can't overvalue the number one pick if you're either franchise. That's the moral of the conversation. I think both franchises, if this rumor is true, has severely overvalued the number one pick in this year's draft. Period. Now, if there were an Anthony Davis at the top of this draft, which some believe Cade Cunningham, Mobley, and Green may be, I don't. But I haven't seen enough homework to really be certain, but I don't get any indications of that. Then maybe this is a different conversation. If that's LeBron James at the top of the draft, I'm probably not making this video. But even still, you have to understand that the LeBron James, that the Anthony Davis would still be a rookie. And in theory, you would still have to wait for them to turn into what they're going to turn into. Now, LeBron came out the gate an all-star. Anthony Davis, pretty much the same thing, even though he was lanky a little bit. Took a year or two for him to really become what he was. He was already out the gate a productive player. I think Cade Cunningham will be as well. I think Green can be as well. I think Mobley can be as well. But I'm not overvaluing them. I'm not taking any of those guys today over Shai GilgeousAlexander. They have to prove that they can do what Shai's already done. So, what can I say, man? If I'm Shai GilgeousAlexander, I'm saying, oh, you putting me in trades? Acting like I don't have the entire league that would love to bring me into their team right now? Like, there's not the player that he can't play with, in my opinion. There's not a system that he can't play in. You see what I'm saying? He's one of those guys, Shai is. So it's like, I, for the life of me, would never understand why you would want to give up on him. Now, if you're the Clippers and you're trying to bring in Paul George, you want to compete with the Lakers. We just got Anthony Davis. Of course, you're going to go all in and get Kawhi because you're not trading Shai to get Paul George. You're trading Shai so you can get Kawhi and Paul George. So that was what the Clippers are trying to do. We get it. I don't get what OKC is doing here. I don't get it. And there's a couple things that OKC has done in the recent past that I really don't get. That trade for Kemba Walker, giving away Moses Brown, another young talent that's coming into his own, a hyper rebounder who could probably block shots from here to Christmas. He can't really stretch the floor, but he's going to be like a Rudy Gobert caliber player as he grows, at least a Tristan Thompson, if not that. I wouldn't have given him up. Not to bring back an older Kemba Walker who's probably going to want to be bought out. I look at what Sam Presti has going on, and I say, this is one of those situations where you have too many picks, right? And you're trying to turn them into something. It's like when somebody gives you a bunch of quarters, I don't need a bunch of quarters. I need to turn them into dollars. I need to turn them into more substantial pieces. And I think what Sam Presti's running into is he's having a little more difficulty doing that than he anticipated this soon. Now, granted, like I said, those picks last from here to the moon. So he's going to have opportunities every year to do this. But I just think this year, I would tell him to slow his roll. You don't have to do what you're trying to do to this degree. If you're talking about giving up young talent to bring in younger talent, you are taking steps backwards. You're reversing the clock. Because essentially, as I've said, and I sound like a broken record, but you are once again re-entering the development phase with players. And that's not a good thing. You don't want to keep doing that. Every time you get a young player, as soon as they get out of the development stage, like Shai, you want to trade them away and bring back what? More development players? You're just rewinding the clock for your fans. That's all you're doing. Bad decision. So, all in all, Shai should not be on the trade block, but if he is, he should definitely be traded for more than the number one pick. If you're going to couple the number 7th pick and Shai GilgeousAlexander, you need to be bringing back Bradley Beal. You need to be bringing back a caliber of player that is really, really, really talented. Not a rookie. Not a talented rookie. It could be a salary dump, right? Because you get rid of Shai's potential contract, reverse the clock to possibly put yourself in a position to have a rookie contract that you don't have to pay. Easier to put players around that. If you have Cade Cunningham's contract, it could potentially be of high value if he comes out the gate and is an all-star, which is possible. So I understand that thinking. But if you're OKC, you don't have cap issues. You see what I'm saying? And Shai GilgeousAlexander certainly isn't an issue on your cap. He's a luxury, regardless of what you have to pay him. So if you're them particularly, so I don't know what they're thinking if this is true. I'd like to think this isn't true, but it gave me something to talk about. Because at the end of the day, these are the type of decisions that we see made in the NBA sometimes. And even if this rumor isn't true, the language within this video will apply to other stuff in the future. And that's the importance of making a video like this. So, yeah, thank you guys for watching. My name is BDO44. I'm out.